Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows. So today is kind of off topic from the Josiah series I've been doing about how we deal with his cerebral palsy. So if any of you know our family, you know we deal with multiple special needs. We have Josiah with cerebral palsy, and he also has seizures related to that. We deal with myself. I have Charcot-Marie-Tooth, which is kind of a form of muscular dystrophy, and I need to wear leg braces to walk around safely. And Mark has a neurological issue that kind of acts like seizures. We think that the latest kind of diagnosis is dystonia. We're working on that with the doctor. But his brain kind of shuts down and his body makes weird movements. So this video is to explain how our family would like to be treated in the midst of dealing with some of these issues. A lot of people don't know how to deal with somebody who is dealing with an issue related to their disability, and that's okay. You don't need to know everything, but there are certain things not to do in these situations. So I'm going to explain when Mark has one of his meltdowns. I'll explain what it looks like and then what to do. So when Mark starts to have one of his issues, he sometimes gets very contorted muscles, usually to the left-hand side, but this can be about anybody. So for Mark, he gets contorted, and he'll start to sometimes drool. His face will sag. He can't answer your questions. He can't focus on you. You can call his name all you want, and he can't look at you. He looks like he's falling asleep or having a seizure, is how some people explain it. And for our family, this is now our new normal. We deal with this multiple times a day. Are you being loud? We deal with this multiple times a day. So you will see that we are acting like everything is normal while we're making sure he safely gets to the floor. We're not freaked out by it because it's something we deal with all the time. But that doesn't mean that we would like everyone else to come up and joke with Mark about these things happening. Saying, oh, you're really slow today, or why are you looking at your feet? Why are you staring off into space? None of those are helpful because it's something that Mark's body's overreacting to the stimuli that's around him and adding more stimuli, specifically saying really foolish things that he can't help in the middle of it. One time we were at the doctor's office and the doctor was doing some testing and it set Mark off, and Mark had his tongue sticking out of his mouth. That's something that sometimes happens, is his tongue just comes out and he can't put it back in, and the doctor was just like, put your tongue in your mouth, put your tongue in your mouth. Mark wasn't trying to stick his tongue out and he had no ability to pull it back in. So even if I, as the caregiver, am joking with him, or our children who are his caregivers also are joking with him in a certain way, doesn't mean we want you joking with him. It's kind of like people who will make, a family joke. You don't necessarily get to be part of the family joke just because you heard it. So, it's bullying when you're making fun of the person who can't defend themselves. And that's what happens in the midst of Mark's issues or the midst of Josiah's seizures. And they can't perform differently. My feet do not work the way that most people's feet work. So to tell me to walk quietly, I can't do that. My feet slap the floor because I cannot hold up my foot as a normal person does to walk. I'm going to pick on me now. I also can't breathe correctly because I have an issue with my nose that I can't breathe air in through my nose the way other people do. So I breathe through my mouth, and sometimes that's loud and sometimes that's just how it is. I can't help it. So forcing your opinion on how someone should act, how someone should walk, how someone should talk, sometimes people can't do that. So just watch your words. In the midst of anyone having an issue related to a disability or injury, ask how you can help. Not in a judgy way, but is there anything I can do? Would you like a glass of water? Would you like me to call somebody? In our situation, we don't need an ambulance ever. We've never needed an ambulance. I'm not saying we never would, but if we say, no, we're all set, don't come back and ask us in 2 minutes if we can call an ambulance. We'll let you know if we need an ambulance. But that's not necessary in our situation. But asking, what can I do to help? not hanging around if we're saying that help is not necessary. We sometimes have people who will hang around and try to engage Mark, try to do things. If you want to hang around and have a chat with me while we're sitting and waiting for Mark to wake up, chatting about homeschooling or, you know, the latest news report or whatever it is, but drawing attention to Mark is not helpful in the situation, or someone having a seizure or whatever the issue might be. So those are the things not to do and to do in the midst of these situations. But also, sometimes people will see how I interact with Josiah and can sometimes be judgy. Josiah has seizures, and when he's having a seizure, he can still walk and talk some of the time, but he can get very disobedient because his brain is not comprehending the things around him that are going on. So judging me as a parent while I'm trying to deal with him, you might not see that he's having a seizure because he can still walk and talk and do those things, but I know that his brain is misfiring, and I might give in, as some people would say, to a situation because I know that his brain doesn't understand what I'm saying. And so if I tell him, you need to come sit down here, he might not be able to do that. And I might just have to pick him up and carry him there. And it's not that he's being a disobedient child. It's that his brain cannot figure out what I'm asking him to do. So just be careful of judging other parents, especially parents as they're dealing with their children, because there might be an issue there that you don't know about. To most people, Josiah doesn't look like he's having seizures. And so then the last thing is feeling open to talk to your family and your children about people with special needs. Not necessarily right there. Like if Mark's having a problem, don't come up and stand in Mark's face explaining to your children what's going on. But talking to your children outside of the situation or away from the situation, to let them know that different people have struggles with different things. We go to church with the same people every week. So I'm just going to use it as that example. If we go to church one Sunday and Mark has an issue, take time that week to explain what was happening, even if you don't understand everything. You know, Mr. Mark wasn't able to walk out of church. He needed to use the wheelchair because he was acting like he was really tired. Or with Josiah, you know, talking to your kids about, you know, he may have been acting like that because you'd be frustrated too if you only had one hand you were able to use to do these things. A lot of disabilities you see are visible, not all of them, but asking the parent some of the struggles that the child has so you can explain what is happening. Not coming up and saying to me in front of Josiah, like, oh, what does your child struggle with? But I don't mind if someone comes up and says, you know, I see that Josiah can't use his hand very well. Can we accommodate him in some way? Can we help with something? You know, is there something we could do for him? People don't tend to think about how they can help the situation. They tend to think, I don't want to be rude, so I'm just going to ignore the situation. And that doesn't help the people that are in the situation acting as the caregiver all the time. We definitely can feel ignored, that people aren't seeing the things that we're dealing with every day when they just ignore us and walk off. So those are just some thoughts I've had as we've seen people interact with us when Mark's having a problem. We had a church that we went to visit while we were on vacation that had security that came and helped us, and that was great. They asked, is there anything we can do to help? Do we need to call an ambulance? That all was great. We've been to other churches where people just kind of look at us and walk the other direction. And you kind of feel like, you know, the story of the Good Samaritan where they're walking on the other side of the road to walk away from the guy. That's kind of how we feel in that situation. So I hope that this gives you some insight into how we would hope people would view us as we deal with these disabilities. If you deal with a disability in your family, please be willing to share here on the YouTube or the Facebook page to help other people know what would help your family in these situations. So thank you for joining Hearing Little Cows.